Hi guys, and welcome back to the Power Project Q&A session. So this week I'm going to cover three different topics. The first is lower back pain. Second is kind of abdominal separation, pain and straining in your core, and then the third one is going to be about safe lifting, particularly if you're returning to it after a break. Lots of you are, months or years postpartum, or you may not have kids yet, but equally there should be something in here for you that should kind of help you, because these are really common questions that come up with lots of my clients. First question is, I'm getting a bit of lower back pain. Any tips to avoid injury? It's been an ongoing postpartum issue. I've previously had spasms and that were once so bad that I couldn't walk for a couple of days. For you, I really don't want to do anything that is going to injure my back or make it worse. Any tips? Firstly, lower back pain in pregnancy and postpartum period is super common. You're overcompensating when you have that big bump, and you're kind of loading back into your spine and dumping there, and you stop using those kind of glutes and core muscles because they're just being stretched and strained that would normally be helping to kind of keep you upright. So it's super common, and it just sounds pretty awful. Spasms for days. It's just not the one. And I think my first piece of advice, and this would apply to any exercise, is if you are experiencing any sort of pain or discomfort whilst you're working out, please just stop. And I just want to be super clear on this. Stretchy feelings are kind of normal. You might feel that little like, ooh, and maybe a bit of a burn, but pain is not normal, and that's not something that you should be working through. So if you are experiencing pain, please just take a pause, stop, and maybe rest for a couple of days, and let whatever has niggled and flared up kind of just calm down a bit. I know it might be frustrating to take a bit of time off training, but equally it's much more important to recover properly. A day off or a couple of days off is not going to impact you, but if you do something bad, it's going to be weeks or months. So just like, don't risk it. Secondly, what you might want to think about seeing is a women's health physio. So physios are amazing at diagnosing very specific issues. They can have a really good look at you, look at your posture, your gait, look at where the pain is, to be able to diagnose properly what the problem is. And actually that could be a really useful course of action anyway. I can give you some really great core exercises to strengthen your core and glutes to support your back a bit better, and I'll come on to that in a moment. But equally, a physio will be able to diagnose specific issues. So maybe go see a pelvic floor or women's health physio. More broadly, I'm just going to talk a bit about what causes lower back pain, particularly after you've had a baby. So can come from a lot of things. So it could be a weak core. So particularly if you had any sort of diastasis, which I'm going to talk about later, or if you haven't been in the habit of like engaging your deep core muscles in a while, which you won't have done if you've had a baby. If you have any sort of pelvic floor dysfunction, that could be impacting it as well. Your pelvic floor and your core, they are all this kind of big kind of hammock that holds everything up effectively, and they are working together as this kind of integrated system. So if there are any problems there, that could be causing it. Again, those postural changes that I experienced during pregnancy, you get used to kind of standing in that certain way, you're kind of holding yourself slightly forward, and it's difficult to kind of right that after pregnancy. Equally, there could be some sorts of like muscle imbalances there. You could be having weak glutes. You get sleepy glutes in pregnancy, mum bum when it all goes a bit flat, tight hip flexors, weak upper back muscles. These could all be kind of causing it, those imbalances. And fundamentally, when your core is not doing what it needs to do, your lower back is going to kind of take up some of the slack, and that's just not great. So I think there's a few things that you can start to do if you are not in pain and it just feels a bit stretchy. There are things that you can do. So make sure you're warming up. So follow the warm ups throughout all the exercises. And even if you're doing things like cycling or running, making sure you're doing some like leg swings, some squats. If you are going to exert effort, you need to be making sure that you're like fully kind of ready to work out. Things like cat cow are great as well, and those like hip circles and leg swings, they're all great. Secondly, recognize the symptoms. I cannot stress this enough. I've talked about it and I'll say it again. Sharp pain versus fatigue, and any sort of like locking up feeling that you've had before the spasms, any like tingling in your legs, like anything that's getting worse when you're warming up, please just stop. Um, the third thing that you can do is just think about body weight movements. So if you are kind of starting to use weights, you might, if you're experiencing those that pain in your back, you might want to just ditch the weight and just use body weight for now. You know, are you squatting without pain? Can you hinge at your hips? You know, if you are getting any sort of pain when you're doing those sorts of exercises, you're not quite ready yet for lifting weights. So think about that as well, and kind of use your judgment there and err on the side of caution. So fourth thing that you can do, and that is a really easy thing and is a great like postpartum like reintegration into kind of exercise, is thinking about your like kinetic chain. So talking about your glutes, your core, your hips, and your upper back. What are the things that you can be doing? Super simple things that are just going to start rebuilding that strength. So weak glutes are one of the biggest contributors to lower back pain. In my postpartum recovery, that was an area of massive weakness for me. I was getting really bad left hip pain, probably because I was carrying my babies on my right arm and was overcompensating with my left and was getting awful pain with it. So had to do loads of work there to rebuild my glutes up, just kind of strengthen it all really. So what you can do there are some glute bridges, things like clamshells, and like hip thrusts as well. So I'm going to do a little video separately of some of these like exercises. Think about your core. I'm going to come to that in a moment when I talk about diastasis, because again, there's some really great exercises that you can do there. You know, think about also about your hip mobility, stretching your hips. So think about those like 90-90 hip stretches, going down into that deep kind of squat on the ground and just like shimmying around is always really lovely. And then doing some hip circles as well. And then also think about your upper body. And if you've gone back to work, you're probably sat at a desk, you will have that tight upper back. And what I love doing when I'm at a desk is that forward stretch like this, like you're hugging a beach ball. It's so nice. And then you can just stretch backwards and just repeat that stretch. Kind of, my hands are like this. You'll see there's a broom in the background. There's a reason for the broom. I'm not just messy. So the other thing that you can also do is start thinking about your posture. Think about how you are sitting. So sit on your bottom rather than on your, like sitting back into your tailbone. So sitting forward and upright, really kind of holding it over you. And actually this is great practice when we're doing our exercises. So rather than sitting back, you want to be sitting upwards, so you're getting that like rib cage is stacked over your hips. You know, also think about how you're lifting your kids, like rather than like, you know, just reaching down and picking them up. Engage your core, hinge your hips, like rather, you know, bend your knees into it, like treat the children like manual, you know, loading and handling type activities like you would in work or something. So there's lots of things that you can do to right it. And also, if you are experiencing any sort of like niggly feelings, make sure that you're not skipping rest days. I know that like we're in the program and it's great and it's really exciting and you're engaged, but actually rest is just as important as the workout, and that's often where the gains are made. So hopefully that's helpful when it comes to lower back. And as I said, I'm going to share a separate video with some exercises about kind of that glute and core strengthening. Cool. So I'll move on to the second question now. I am getting a pain between my ribs. Feels like a pulling pain. It's sort of like muscular. What is this? And what do I do about it? So without having a look at you, I can't say for certain. And if you are in a lot of discomfort, you may want to go and see a physio. I feel like I'm just referring everyone to physios, but they're brilliant. They really know their stuff. Go and see a physio if you're having that problem. But based on that description and the fact that I know that you are relatively recently postpartum, this is potentially related to diastasis recti. So I'm going to talk a bit about what this is. So diastasis recti is the separation of your rectus abdominal muscles. So that like it's up here, that this bit of your stomach, those six-pack muscles that go down the front of your abdomen, six-pack. Ha. During pregnancy, your belly gets bigger, and the connective tissue running down the centre, the kind of linea alba, is stretched, and that kind of thins out just to accommodate you, like the growing baby. And once you've had the baby, the muscles don't just snap back, and there is that separation often there. And it's not just a cosmetic thing; it can really like affect how the whole of your core functions as well. So I guess, why does it cause rib pain then? So there are three reasons why it causes rib pain. Is that you're fundamentally, like your abdominal wall has been compromised, it's been stretched by pregnancy, and it cannot provide your body with the support you're used to, and then a lot of things can happen then. So you get like something called rib flare, which when your rib cage, there we go, flares kind of outwards and upwards because the muscles that would normally hold it in place are like not functioning properly. You end up like with compensation patterns that are unusual and new. So the muscles around your ribs, they're having to work really hard to stabilize your trunk, and they are not designed to do this all the time, and they get overworked, and that can be really painful. And also, you might not be breathing properly. So because of the diastasis, and you know the way that you've been breathing in pregnancy, you know, from the top of your from the like the top of your lungs, sorry, rather than the full spectrum, because you just don't have space. Your diaphragm isn't moving as efficiently as it could, and that's going to affect how you're breathing and then create that tension through your cage, which is then potentially going to cause pain. So it feels like this might be muscle compensation, but again, if you are really concerned, I would definitely go and see a physio. So this is annoying, but there are things that you can do, which is the good news. So with the right exercises, it can absolutely be improved, and you know it's all about closing that gap and restoring that function to your core, which is going to take the pressure off. So on that, not all ab exercises are created equal, and in the program, I've been quite kind of specific about some of the ones that I've chosen. So things that you don't want to be doing at this stage are the traditional crunches or sit-ups. Full plank I would avoid, unless you know, try like get used to that feeling of doing a plank first. If you're experiencing doming, when I say doming, your stomach is kind of pointing outward like a little dome, is what it says what it is, that are causing it down the middle. So that's what could happen if you are doing things like full planks. And I'd also avoid like heavy twisting with weight, so like kind of this side to side. Although having said that, you do that quite a lot after having a baby, so it's a tricky one, isn't it? Well, they're on the next to me, but I would avoid doing that. So one thing that you can do is your kind of diaphragmatic breathing, and this is something that you can come back to every day, and it's going to really help you to kind of engage your body a bit better. So it's a great starting point. So what you can do here is just lie down on your back with your feet flat on the floor and put one hand on your belly and one on your ribs. I'm just going to sit here for a moment so you can see the positioning. Imagine me lying down. So what you're going to do here is inhale through your nose and just allow your belly and your ribs to really expand completely, fully, front, side and centre. You know, it's like that full belly, the way that babies breathe. And feel your ribs kind of go outwards, not just upwards, towards your shoulders. So it's that, breathe in and then exhale slowly through your mouth, drawing your belly button up towards your spine. And you should feel that your ribs are starting to close inwards and your lower back is really pressing down onto the floor. And you know, this is something that's going to come up through the pelvic floor as well. So it's that kind of pulling upwards on your pelvic floor. So it's another great one as well if you are postpartum. So if you have the time, you know, do this for a couple of minutes every day. You know, try like 8 to 10 breaths, you know, 2 to 3 times over, and really focus on it. You know, when you're getting out of bed, when you're about to go to bed, it's just really, sometimes it's just really nice just to lie there and breathe and be still, particularly if your children are in another room. But you know, that can really help to kind of remove that rib bone and start to strengthen up your core there. Other great exercises, things like heel slides, dead bugs, modified side planks, and some pelvic tilts. But I'm going to do a separate video with those lower back and core exercises. So I think it'll be really useful for everybody to see what they look like. So yeah, hopefully that is useful. Yeah, I think that a couple of little like daily habits to think about as well. So it's that, think about like how you're sitting, you know, check that your ribs aren't kind of flaring forward, and if they are, that just bring them back. So to really think again about your posture. I feel I've talked a lot about posture in this video, but I think it's really important, something for us to all think about. And think about in exhaling when you're exerting. So when you're lifting your child, picking up the shopping, you know, breathe in as you pick it up, and then breathe in as you go down to get it, and then breathe out as you pick it up. So when you're doing the activity, breathing out, because that's going to really help you engage your core and engage through your body, and will kind of because you naturally do it when you're doing it, right? And also, if you're like coughing and sneezing, and I think I do this anyway because I'm terrified I'm going to pee myself or something, but like thinking about engaging when you're coughing and sneezing is going to be really helpful. And you know, it will kind of avoid you like letting that pressure come through your abdomen, and it is going to take practice and it will take time, but it will start to like help to protect your kind of healing core. So in terms of timeline, so you've just got to be patient, unfortunately, when it comes to diastasis. It can take like 3 to 6 months to really kind of recover it fully. Just need to kind of persevere with it and just really focus on those breathing, the exercises that I'm going to share in a separate video. And, you know, hopefully the rib pain, with regards to the rib pain, I take a few days off and then, you know, come back to it. If you're like feeling, if you're feeling better, and, you know, consider also seeing a physio. You want to go get it checked out, because it's quite useful to see somebody who can help you with some specific exercises beyond this program for your specific problem. Cool. So hopefully that's helpful. The third and final question is, I am a weights beginner. Can you advise on proper form and technique? So great, yes, I can. Strength training is brilliant. It's really good, especially when you're postpartum. And actually, I think I said this on the last Q&A, that like you are much more likely to weights are a really great way of building like kind of general strength in your body. They also teach you how to like lift and put down and, you know, push up and pull in a really safe way, so that actually that translates into your daily life. You know, so you don't just bend down to pick up a kid and do something to your back, or reach up and pull up like a muscle down your side. So I think they're really great. But there's kind of some like fundamental movement pillars that are really helpful to think about as you're going through, and like there is proper techniques for each. So before we even pick up the weights, there's something about like breathing. I feel like I've talked so much about breathing in this video, but it's really important, right? So you need to kind of create that pressure in your abdomen, because like it's weird, like core feels so aesthetic, but it's so central to all the kind of a lot of the exercises that we do and the movements we're doing. So what we're going to do here is think about creating that pressure. So what you're going to do here is you're going to breathe in that 360 breath, so feeling your ribs go out, and if it's helpful, just put your hands on your side. And as you're about to imagine, if you're about to lift, and brace your core like someone's about to punch you, like a child's about to run at you, and then exhale, but then keep that braced core when you move. So you know, practice that breath. You know, come back to that 8 to 10 breaths of that brace core, and you practice that, and that's going to really help you when it comes to kind of maintaining that tension, and, you know, exhaling while you've got the tension in your belly, and that's a real foundation for safe lifting. So that's the first thing that I would really think about. And now I'm going to talk you through some movement patterns. So there's lots of movement patterns, but these are basic. So hip hinge, squat, overhead press, and some rows. Okay, so I'm going to pull my chair out the way, stand up, and then you'll see why I have a broomstick behind me. So hip hinges are such a foundational movement. Like, they are so important. And in this one, it's so important to like protect your lower back. And it's all about like, you know, as we move into like things like dead lifts. I think there aren't any kettlebell swings in this program, but you know, if you're swinging your kids around, you're coming at it from here, right? You know, it's really important. So what you do here is you stand with your hips, you stand with your hips, with your feet hip width apart. There we go. I got there in the end. And place your hands in your hip creases. So in and around here, right? And your glutes are going to give you a little bit of feedback. So push, slight bend in the knees, and then you just push your hips straight back. Little bit, and the movement should be coming from your hips. See, if you look at my knees, you can see my knees. They are a little bit bent. They are not moving. They are super still, and it's keeping that spine really neutral. And I quite like to kind of keep my eyes slightly ahead of me, because I find that helps me keep my spine straight. If I look down, there's a tendency that I'm like curving my spine, and like fundamentally here, it's all about keeping like your spine in a kind of vertical column all the way down your body. And you should feel like that stretch on the back of your hamstrings here. I would avoid that and avoid looking up too much. And, make sure that you are not rounding your shoulders. You want to be pinning those shoulders back. So it's that pinning down and up. And really keeping those knees still. So a really great way to practice this is with your broomstick. Don't laugh. But basically, what we're going to do here, you'll see that I've got the broomstick down my back. And basically, the stick is against my head. What you want to be doing, so it's against my head and it's against the middle of my spine there. So what we're going to do here is you're just going to have bend forward, and you want that broomstick to be parallel with your back. Okay. If you feel like you're losing the broomstick, you're going too far or you're curving too much. So have a think about that, and it's quite a fun one as well to practice. So what I would do if you're completely new to this is before you start is that do kind of 10-15 reps of movement without the weight and maybe without the broomstick, and then just think about that and it will really help you. Cool. So your next one is a squat. So I'm just going to move my camera slightly. I might get rid of my broomstick as well. So squats are like such an important movement. Like we do them all the time. They're really useful. And also, once you've gone beyond those kind of basic glute strengthening, they're a really great way to get your ass back if that's something that you're into. So with that, what we want to be doing here is so with the basic squat, your feet are hip width apart, and think again about that core engagement that we talked about. And what we're going to do here is just sit backwards into our heels. Your knees should be tracking directly over your toes, but don't be coming too far forward here. And come down as low as you can, and really try and keep your spine straight. If you are coming forward, it's fine, but as long as you've got your back in a neutral position, and then just drive through your heels to come back. So it's that down and up. And in this, really try to avoid letting your knees like knock in. You don't want to be shifting your weight into your toes. You should be sitting back into your heels, like your heels should be taking the weight here. Make sure that you're not kind of feeling any sort of crunching in your lower back as well. But if you're keeping that neutral spine, that's going to really help you. Third little thing that we're going to do is a pressing movement. I'm just going to move my camera slightly so you can see what I'm doing. So again, a press is something that we probably do all the time as parents, and it's I find I spend a lot of time flinging my kids over my shoulder, and they get heavier and heavier, so it's a really good one. So again, it is that hip width apart, engage your core, hold the weights at shoulder height with the palms facing sideways or forward. I'm going to go sideways, and right before you press up, make sure that you're engaging your glutes. So you'll see here that I'm just going to slightly tuck in my core, bending my knees slightly, and then it's that press up directly with force. And you breathe in, and then lower down with control. And the lower down is just as important as the push up. You don't want to be letting your weights fall down. If you're letting them come down like this, you're missing out on half the move. This is a holistic movement. It's the concentric movement here. So you want to be pushing up and then lowering it down with control. Okay. And if you're feeling that you're dumping into your back, or it's too heavy, then you need to kind of go lighter on the weights. And even with that movement, make a fist. If you're not comfortable with it, go down, make it with a fist, and it's like push up, pull down really slowly with control, push up, down with control. Okay, so with this one, really try to engage your core. It's super important, especially as weights get heavier, and try to avoid dumping into your lower back as well, because that's going to cause you some of the issues that I talked about earlier. And avoid using momentum rather than muscle. Keep that in mind. I wrote that down and I was about to miss it, but essentially, this is about you want to be controlling the muscles here. This isn't just like flinging up and flinging down, it's that up with your muscles and controlling it down with your muscles as well. So cool, that is that one. And then your last movement pattern is all about pulling. So this is rowing. So things like rows and picking things up. So with this again, it's going to be that neutral spine. You're going to be looking forward, slight bend in the knees, looking forward, and then it's that pulling in, out, out. And then again, this is all about muscle, not momentum. So don't let the weight fall down here. Really controlled in this movement, okay? Super controlled. So in this kind of rowing, things to kind of look out for and avoid doing are things like rounding into your lower back. So we don't want to see you coming down like this. It's straight back, like with the other exercises, sticking your bum out. Try not to round your shoulders. Keep your shoulders back and proud, okay? And you don't want to be rotating your body here. There's no reason to rotate when you're doing that simple pull. So yeah, so there's some simple movements. Hopefully that is helpful. So just a few little tips then, and then I will love and leave you. So with those kind of general form principles, so firstly, start light, lighter than you think. Like you're probably doing this at home. Like no one is judging you for doing this. If anything, they're like, look at mum go. So if weights feel too easy, that's probably okay at this stage. And if it feels too light, probably because you're doing it right at this point. And then, then we build from there. So second thing is that control the eccentric movement. So what I mean by that is relying on muscle over momentum. Just keep that in mind. So it's on both movements, it's about the muscle. If you're doing a push, it's that push up and then lowering it down with control with your muscles. So it's the full movement there. If you're new to this, especially, take rest between sets. That's how you're going to kind of grow your muscle and build it up. So you want to be able to kind of say, I think in the program it's like 3 sets of like 8 to 12. So you start on like 8 reps, take that gap between rather than just powering through, because you're going to lose form and potentially you could do yourself an injury. And also think about the tempo. So it's that kind of 2 seconds up and down. And I've talked a lot about it in this video, but really come back to that breath, that breathing. And it applies across all different exercises, right? So hopefully that is helpful for you. Amazing. Well, that is everything for this Q&A session. I hope you find this useful. Please keep asking me questions, giving me feedback on the program. It really helps me to improve the product that I'm providing for you guys. So thank you for all of your kind of engagement so far. But yeah, just drop me a question directly, pop it in the group chat, and otherwise I will see you next week. Take care. Bye.